This is the project table, and the projects are getting down. And what this is this is an original in-box water pump that exactly matches the one that's in the motorhome. It's a 2088-42244, 2.8 gallons a minute at 45 psi. And if you try to order that, they give you an upgraded one, which is at 55 psi, and I didn't want to do that because I'm afraid of springing leaks. So I have this complete pump, and then I have this pump rebuild kit. And the problem I'm having is I don't have any leaks, but there must be water leaking by the diaphragms in the pump, because about every 3 to 5 minutes the pump will come on and run for 15 seconds and then turn back off. And there's no leaks. So what I want to do is I think I want to put the new pump in, take the old pump out, put the rebuild kit on the old pump, and have it as a backup. So that takes us to the motorhome. And I've never understood this thing. There's a bunch of valves in there. I know one turns it from the city water nozzle to winterized nozzle, but the other valve, I have no idea what it does. There's no instructions on this side, but there are some instructions on this side as to what those valves do. So I like to try to figure that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble that whole station so I can get access to that pump. So let me go get a tripod and we'll get started. These are drains. This is the diverter. Now, get this off. You gotta take those off. You gotta go get a wrench. I'll be back. You gotta be kidding me. In order to get this out, you gotta take these off. Alright, let me give you a close-up of what I think goes on here. So this is what it looks like in here. And I got two valves. I've got this valve right here. Now that valve takes water from the tank to the pump, or from the winterization. So that's kind of understand. This goes down here to there, then over here to the pump, out the pump, and to the motorhome. This line right here, which you can hardly see, comes from the water tank and comes out here, goes to the pump. So when it's like this is shut off and it's pulling water from the tank into the pump. So I can understand that. What I don't understand is this valve here. This is the outside of the pump, and it goes up here and into the motorhome. This line on the back side comes out and goes back to the water pump. So why the heck would you ever want to come out of the water pump and go to the tank? It kind of looks like it'd go in a circle. Let's proceed to take the water pump out. So maybe that's why that valve was there, so you could disconnect it. Yeah, okay. So that allows you to turn the water off should you have to take the pump out. That's all that does. One water pump. They look pretty much identical. I ordered a new filter to go with this pump. This is the old filter. They don't have any more like this. Turns out I'm not going to be able to use this one because it's longer. If I screw it in, it's a 1/2 inch longer. And I got a pipe that runs across the bottom. The pipe that comes out of here runs across the bottom of another pipe. So I can't extend this a 1/2 inch. Fortunately, this one comes off and it's cleanable. I can take it off and it's kind of full of junk. So we're going to clean that and we're going to reuse it. This O-ring is still in good shape. I put a little Vaseline on it, but we'll take care of that. Let me clean this up and we'll put the new pump in. Now let's try to put this pump back in. And these are the screws that were in there originally. And they're barely beyond the taper. So I'm concerned that they're really not going to bite. So I've got some new ones that are longer and they'll certainly go in deeper. The old ones are brass, these are just galvanized, so they're not as good. But I'd rather have them bite, so we're going to do that. Alright, let's see if we can get this to go in there. I love engineers. They ought to have mechanics design these things. Somehow this is supposed to be accessible. And maintainable. The elbows are in a little tighter than what we'd want them to be. These only get finger tight. Now you see why the 1/2 inch would have made a difference. If that was a 1/2 inch longer, I wouldn't be able to get that on there. No sealant goes on there because there's a grommet inside. Alright. And then put this thing on. And if we turn the pump on, it should run. And it does. It's nice and quiet. Now to test it, we got to fill the tank. And I have these finger tight too, so we may get a leak here and we'll have to tighten it up a little bit. Goal tonight is to test it. That's it. And I'll put it back together tomorrow. So I generally drain that tank between trips just to keep anything from growing in there. So it's going to take a while to fill. That's wonderful. The pump's got a leak in it. So that doesn't work. Look right here. Right out of the pump housing. So like I said, I never do a plumbing project without a leak. Now I'm going to have to pull the pump back out, and I guess what I'm going to do is put the rebuild kit on the old pump and reinstall the old pump, contact the guy I bought this pump from, and get a refund. Wonderful. I did install what I thought was the rebuild kit. Turns out that the rebuild kit only had this housing in it. It's got a check valve in the end of it, so maybe that solved my problem with the thing reaching pressure, waiting 5 minutes, turning back on for 15 seconds, and then turning back off. I couldn't find any leaks in the system anywhere, and after it was running for several days, there was no drips under the bus. So I can only assume that it was an internal leak to the pump. So I did replace that. And just as a side note, I did put longer screws in the mounts. This is the original screw, like that, or like that. But the screw that I'm using is about 3/4 of an inch longer. And I had a dreadful thought last night that I drilled all the way through the partition and into my freshwater drain tank, holding tank. But it turns out that this wall right here is an inch thick. So we're good. We got no problems. The original screws only went into this, and now it's going to go into this wall. It'll go in about 3/4 of an inch, and we'll be good. So we're going to put the pump back in here today. We're going to label these hoses and hopefully put an end to this project. Once again, every time I do a plumbing project, I have a leak. So let's see if we can do this now without any more leaks. Second time around. Well, it's not the hole, but it's going to be the new hole. Well, that could have been shorter, I guess. Well, that's good. Now, how about that? Did you see that? That came right out. Wonder how that's worked all this time. I always thought these strippers were kind of gimmicky, but now I wouldn't be without them. They really do a nice job. My good crimpers are in the trailer. But these will do. Alright. Now, most people use a lighter. You shouldn't use a lighter. Use a heat. It takes a little longer, but you don't end up with a burnt connection. I'll just wrap a little tape on there to be sure. Hopefully we don't need this anymore. I used to use wire ties on the end of these things to make sure they stay shut. But I have switched to a wrap of tape now. I think it looks neater. Kind of disappears. And now this goes up in the slot here onto this connection someplace. Someplace up there. Oh, there's my son. There we go. So now that's connected and that pump should run. And it does. Hello. So now we got to put some water in this tank. This is kind of where we left off yesterday. So winterization shut off. Winterization is shut off, and that's on. We're going to leave that alone. I see no leaks, unlike yesterday. Oh, I don't know if I have to, let's see, open to fill the tank. Open to fill the tank, there we go. So we're filling the tank. So far no leaks. We're going to let the tank fully fill. We have two monitors. The freshwater tank reads full, but really isn't because of the slant. Gray water tank reads empty. LP tank reads full. Black water tank reads empty. Got another one of those inside. So the way I tell whether this tank is full on this hill as I watch the overflows. I'm starting to get water out of the front overflow, but that doesn't mean the tank is full. What we have to do is wait for the back one to run. So that'll be a couple minutes yet. So now you can see I got water coming out of both overflows. The hose has been turned off. It'll continue to run for a little bit. Let's turn it on and see what happens. Looks like I got a leak out of the check valve here. And I've had that before. Well, maybe it'll stop with pressure behind it now. I did get a couple drips out of here. It may have just been the check valve. Now that I got pressure behind it, I don't think it's going to leak. And that's the symptom I'm getting. It sits there for a little bit, then it runs for a very short period of time, and it'll shut off. And it'll sit there for a little bit, then it runs for a very short period of time, and then it shuts off again. So I got an internal, I think it's an internal leak. I've very carefully checked everywhere. I don't have any drips. I've let the thing on the whole weekend. I find no drips anywhere, but it does that. So I think there's an internal leak in the pump. And if anybody has any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. I'm gonna let this thing sit and check for leaks, and we'll go from there. This has been on for a couple hours now, and there's no drips there at all. There's no drips there at all. Bone dry. Well, what I'm going to do is do something that I've always been wanting to do, and that's label everything here, because this valve doesn't make any sense to me. And there are some instructions over in the sanitary bay about turning that valve on and off. So I'm just going to label it, and then when I winterize this winter, I'm going to follow the directions that are here. Let's start labeling. And there goes the pump. I did go in, I had this thing running for hours. I did go in, I checked every connection I can see, no drips anywhere. So I don't know where it's going. I'd like to hear from people if they have the same problem. I have labeled and put the blocks on that were loose. These two blocks here. And I can reproduce the pump cycling on and off by cracking this valve just a little bit. And that looks like it's just a loop. It comes out of that valve, goes down, goes right back into the pump. Now if I shut that valve off, it won't cycle. Well, it'll cycle like what you've seen in the past. So that's another possible. It could be this valve is leaking. It could be that something in here is leaking. But I've checked multiple times. I find no leaks anywhere. And I've labeled every pipe I can think of to label. And I've also labeled the valve positions. Valve 1 forward is off. Valve 2 horizontal is off. So here we go. And that's the best I can do for now. I don't know what else to do. I could order a new diaphragm and put that in. And I think I can put that in by just taking those screws out. These screws right here. All the way around. Take that pump off and put a new diaphragm in. I don't know if that's going to solve the problem or not. But let's put this thing back together now. First thing is to put this in. Like so. So let's put the hose on here, put some pressure in here, and see what happens. Open to fill, close the city water. So with this valve closed, we're going to pressurize the system with the city water. So if there are going to be any leaks, that's when we'll see them. Okay, nice and tight. And we'll go turn the pressure on. Now if this thing's going to leak, it'll leak now, because there's about 80 pounds of pressure there. I'm not regulating it. And I'll go inside and I'll check for leaks also. Let me go exercise all the faucets. So I'm going to leave that city water hooked up for a while. So we got some pressure in the system, more pressure than what it would normally have. I'll put some paper towel down there. That way I know if I got a leak. And I'll check inside again for leaks, but I really don't think it's an internal leak inside the motorhome. I think the problem is either here or there. Okay. I wish I could say I fixed it. I did a lot of work, but I don't think we fixed the problem. So it looks like I'm finishing up just in time here. Looks like it might rain. Alright, I think that's it for now. I'm going to check for leaks on the inside, but I'm confident there aren't any. Oh, shoot! Oh!